Dementia is the leading cause of death in women in the UK and second in men. It's estimated around 850,000 people are living with dementia across the UK. And of that figure, young-onset dementia, or those diagnosed between the age of 30 and 65, equate to around 5%, which is just over 42,000 people.
So dementia is actually an umbrella term which describes a group of clinical symptoms. So these can include things like confusion, like memory loss. But what's a real key point for me to make is that dementia is not something that's inevitable. It's caused by diseases that affect the brain. So the most common cause of dementia is Alzheimer's disease. There are other causes such as frontotemporal dementia. And the reason that that distinction is so important is because we can research diseases in the lab, we can understand why they happen, and we can develop new treatments.
So in the UK, someone as young as 23 has been told that they could develop early onset dementia. Can you explain to me why somebody so young can get this disease?
We typically think of dementia as something that affects people as they get older, and actually age is the biggest risk factor. But there are very, very rare cases where dementia is genetic. It's what we call autosomal dominant, and this means for every child of a parent who is affected, they will have a 50-50 chance of inheriting that gene and developing either Alzheimer's disease or another form of dementia. Now, this is very, very rare, but in families where it does occur, because they have that genetic cause, it means the age at which the disease occurs is much, much earlier.
We met up with two politicians, Debbie Abrahams and Tracy Crouch, to see how Parliament can help with those living with dementia and their families, and if there should be some more education around the disease.
We want to have, first of all, affordable care. We want to make sure that it's universal, and we want to make sure that it's recognised in terms of the particular case for people with dementia. It's not right that people with dementia are having to sell up their home in many cases to provide for their care.
There are many groups and organisations and even schools now that are teaching people about dementia, about what it means, why you shouldn't be afraid of somebody with dementia. And I think it's really important that we do get that into the educational curriculum.
Sisters Chrissy and Kiana were just 11 and 13 when their father Mike was first diagnosed with young-onset dementia at the age of 46. Their life drastically changed as they had to stay at home and care for him. Sadly, Mike passed away in 2013 when the girls were just 16 and 18.
I think there needs to be different support available for people who aren't really, you know, people who are younger don't have the same interests as people who are that bit older. And that was one of the things I think Dad struggled with himself, was finding activities that he could do that weren't just sitting down with a group of older people. He was so young and so active, he loved sport, so that was really difficult, I think. I think Mum found it very difficult. She wanted us to do well in school, so she supported us in every way possible in that sense, whilst trying to care for her husband, who was terminally ill.
Wendy Mitchell was diagnosed with young-onset Alzheimer's disease in 2014, when she was just 58 years old. Since her diagnosis, she has started a blog, become an activist for dementia, and gained a following on Twitter and written a Sunday Times best-selling book.
People forget that dementia isn't age-related. So I thought it only happened to older people. How could it be happening to me? But I soon realised that many of the people I came into contact with were younger than me, in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s. But for others that are just being diagnosed, I would just say to them, you're no different today than you were yesterday when you weren't diagnosed with dementia. So don't think of it as the end. Think of it as the start of a different life. And I'm not saying that it's an easy ride, because it really isn't. I think of it as a game I'm playing with dementia, and I don't like losing. And so whenever it throws a challenge at me, I like to find a solution. But for those caring for people who have just been diagnosed, I'd also say to them, you know, don't dwell on what you've lost. Don't dwell on the future. And instead, just enjoy today and enjoy this moment. Because in the blink of an eye, the moment will be gone. And you never know what tomorrow might bring.
Dementia affects the lives of so many people, not just emotionally, but financially too. There is more research being done now to find a cure and ultimately to find a solution for this health crisis.